Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Ticking Together. As always, the goal of this channel is to provide education about and to raise awareness as to what it's like living with Tourette syndrome. In today's video, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how me living with Tourette syndrome has impacted my life, because again, nowadays on social media, it's almost like Tourette syndrome has become some sort of weird, quirky trend that people want to have. And with my despising of that kind of romanticization of Tourette syndrome, I thought that there is no better video to do now than to talk about how Tourette syndrome has affected my life, mostly negatively, but maybe a little bit positively too. For those of you new to my channel, my name is Carly. I am now 23 years old and I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome when I was 12. So it has been a fairly long journey of dealing with tics and figuring out how to deal with them and just kind of figuring out how to navigate the world with Tourette syndrome, because it's not always easy. And so this video will give you a few little scenarios regarding my diagnosis and my life with Tourette syndrome, because again, it's not something that people want. So if you're out there and you're one of those TikTok teens that want Tourette syndrome, let me tell you, you do not. So I'm so salty still. All right, so how does living with Tourette syndrome impact my life? Well, to start off, it causes me to have tics, and I feel like that's the main focus. Is Tourette syndrome comes with tics, both motor and vocal tics, and they can honestly be very debilitating. And that is something that I feel like people don't, something that people don't always realize, is that these tics are debilitating and painful and uncomfortable, because the media has kind of made Tourette syndrome out to be some kind of, there's two extremes. There's the swearing kind of offensive Tourette's, which is a huge stigma, and then there's the cute and quirky, like, oh, I'm so cute with Tourette's, you know, and there's no in between. There's no actual reality that is shown in the media. And so my channel tries to show the reality, because the media has kind of twisted things for us and I kind of hate it. So I just want to talk about the real stuff. So obviously, as I said, Tourette's impacts me by having motor and vocal tics as well as mental tics, and I'm gonna make a video on that soon. If you guys have any questions, leave those down below for me and I'll try and get to those as soon as possible. But yeah, the main thing is that living with Tourette syndrome brings tics. And how do those tics impact me, you ask? Well, this is how. Let's get into it. So being diagnosed with Tourette syndrome at 12 was really challenging. I started developing tics when I was around 10, maybe a little bit earlier. And so I always just was like, what is my body doing? Like, why am I doing this? And I didn't know. And like I said, being 12 with this is very challenging, because it's the preteen years. You're finding yourself, you're trying to figure out like where you fit in the world. And I was dealing with all of these movements and sounds that I wasn't able to control. And so immediately I felt like an outcast. That has been a huge negative impact in my life, is just always feeling like there's a target on my back of like, oh, you're different because you do these things that you can't control. And like, that's a huge negative thing for me, is just feeling like you have this burden on you that you can't help. And it's not the nicest thing to be diagnosed with, because again, the stigma that Hollywood has presented on it is so bad. And so when I was diagnosed at 12, I was like researching like, what is Tourette syndrome? And I would see all this negative stuff about coprolalia and just the swearing tics and all the kind of vulgar content, and I was like, I'm 12, why am I being diagnosed with this? Because I didn't swear, I didn't resonate with that. And so one of the negative impacts is just not feeling like you fit in anywhere, because at my school there was no one else with Tourette syndrome. I didn't know anyone actually in my personal life with it except for my older cousin, but he's at least 15 years older than me, and so he's not going to want to hang out with a little 12-year-old, because, you know, I feel like that's just not what a normal young adult male would want to do. And so that was difficult, because again, I just didn't know. Hi. I just didn't know anyone with Tourette syndrome in my life, and so at school I didn't want people to know because I just wanted to hide and be like, you know what, I'm normal too, like normal, because again, in junior high, elementary school, even high school, into all of the grade schooling experiences, I feel like so many people just want to fit in. And I felt like I had this huge disadvantage, like, no, you can't fit in because you're doing all this stuff. And I got rice. And so that was really, really hard. And that's a huge impact on my life. It has caused me to be a lot less trusting and a lot less open with people. And I mean, I'm working on that now, but when I was younger, just always hiding like that is not a good way to live. And I have videos on it. I'm gonna make another update on this one, but I would literally not tell anyone about my diagnosis ever. Like, no one in my school knew, really no one knew. And that was difficult because like I said, it's impacted my life in the way that I've always felt like I have to hide and not be my authentic self, which is very challenging now at 23, trying to be like, you know what, no, you can live authentically. And this is a part of you that you can't control, and so why not embrace it and raise awareness about it? So that's why I've created this channel to talk about my journey with it and to kind of maybe hopefully give younger audiences or older audiences just kind of some hope that, you know, even though I live with Tourette syndrome, and obviously there's very obvious physical features with it, it's still okay. And I guess in a way that it's positively impacted me is the way that I am able to spread awareness about it through this platform and to talk about it more openly now that I'm older, and just kind of let the world know what Tourette syndrome really is. And that's something that I've always kind of dreamed of. It's been a dream of mine to show people like, this is the reality, this is what it's like, and never to sugarcoat it because I got raised, because communism, because I just think it's something that should be talked about. And I feel so grateful that now that I'm older, I've kind of realized like, you don't really have to care what people think about you. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but with Tourette syndrome, it's almost like that feeling enhanced because you have all these things that people can notice that are different or weird. And so that's been difficult. But now I'm trying to embrace it and like letting you guys know that it's okay. And the positive attribute to this is I've met so many wonderful people who also experience tics, and the community online is so great to just talk to people who experience what you're experiencing. Because as I said, from 12 to about 21, I didn't really have anyone else that I knew in my life that had tics that I could actually openly talk with. And now meeting friends online on my Instagram and my Discord and just the online community of Ticcing together, it has genuinely been such a gift and a blessing. And I feel like if I'm able to help people, or even if they're able to help me and we can just talk and be like, hey, I went through that too, you know, it's so much more reassuring, and it makes me feel like I can become more accepted. And also living with Tourette's has made me more understanding because I'm like, hey, I know what you're going through. And even if it's something completely different, I feel like I have more empathy and I'm able to be like, okay, I can sympathize with you, because I mean, Tourette's isn't easy either. And I really like that part about me. Just being able to understand and be very caring, because I know what, I don't want to sound like a woe is me, but I know what pain is like through Tourette syndrome. And that's another way that Tourette syndrome has negatively impacted me, is pain, like physical pain. People don't realize that tics can be really painful. And I mean, when I was younger, I had full body tics. I still do. Like, I'm currently ticcing right now and you guys can't even see it. My hands are moving, my stomach is clenching, and all these things are just subtle tics that do cause pain. Like, imagine doing a movement over and over again until it feels right, but it never really feels right. And so just clenching your stomach repeatedly all day until you just feel physically in pain and almost sick because you're just repeating a movement over and over again. And it's not a movement that you should really be doing. And so the subtle ones can even be painful. But then I also have the big oof ones where I will, don't do it. Well, I will punch my neck, or I will kick my ankles together when I'm walking, or I will jerk my neck and my backs, whatever. I will do big, grandiose movements with my body, and those can be really painful. Sometimes I'll pull muscles in my back to the point where I feel like I can't move. Sometimes when I punch my neck, I Like, I feel like I'm seeing stars sometimes, and it's like, what have I done? Like, none of this is intentional either, and that's just the fact that people don't understand, which is hard because I don't want to be doing this, but I have to be doing this, and that's just because of my neurological disorder. And a lot of people don't get that. So I just like to talk about it and be like, you know what, guys? When I'm doing these things, I can't control them, so it causes pain. That's another thing, how it's impacted me negatively. I've had finger braces on, I've had ankle braces on, I've wanted to get a neck brace. Like, I've been so uncomfortable so many times from my tics, and like my wrists will ache at the end of the day from just flicking them and doing weird movements, and that's just something that I want people to know. That's a negative impact, is Tourette's can actually be painful, and so many people don't actually realize that. Another way that Tourette syndrome has impacted me is, again, kind of like the topic of being in public and just feeling like you have to hide, but also like people judging and being very not nice. And that's something that I don't appreciate, and I just feel like the whole scenario, again with the stereotypes and stigma surrounding Tourette syndrome, have made it really hard for us to just be us in society, because people are always expecting certain things from you, and every case of Tourette syndrome is completely different, and so that's hard to accept, because literally it's just everyone is different, and no one actually, I don't think people actually realize that, and just kind of having that expectation on you is a big negative impact, because it almost feels like you have to perform to be a certain way, whether that's suppressing or ticking. There's really no in between. It feels like you have to cater to other people's expectations of you, and that's something that I've really struggled with, because with me, I've always tried to suppress and be very under the radar, and that's just something that I feel like has negatively impacted me so much, is just trying to be so small and not noticed by people. And even though I was really smart in school and I was like the top student in junior high, like I just didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be noticed, because I just felt like, again, I had this huge kind of like trigger target thing being like, oh, I'm like this way, so you shouldn't like me. And I know it's so bizarre, because Tourette's doesn't define me. It's not my one selling feature, but being young and feeling like everyone judges you, having that on top of it is just so brutal. And that's been a really, really negative impact, is just literally feeling like everyone's always watching you and that you have to be a certain way, and just so many things that I feel other people are thinking about me when really they're probably not, but just because, again, of Hollywood's perception of my disorder, I feel like I've just missed out on a lot of my life, if that makes sense, because I've been hiding. And that's something I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to be hiding from life, because you can't just avoid life, because that's not living. So, I mean, besides the obvious stuff like the painful tics, the stares, the laughter, the bullying, the jokes, all that kind of stuff, besides that, just the fact that I've been conditioned to hide, that has been the #1 negative impact of living with Tourette syndrome. Everything else is kind of manageable in a weird way. I can get through things, but honestly, having to hide and not be myself, that is the absolute hardest thing, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. All right, I know this video was kind of weird, but I'm gonna end it here, and I might make a part 2. I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys because I really enjoy you guys, and I think you are a wonderful community. And I really enjoy hearing from you guys. So if you want to comment down below saying hi, telling me what you want to see in future videos, or just like letting me know something about your journey with Tourette syndrome in your life, I love hearing from you. So leave a comment and just talk to me. If you want to stay tuned to educational content, as well as some more of my life stories of living with Tourette syndrome for over 10 years, please subscribe to my channel, because the goal here is to break the stigma surrounding Tourette syndrome and to let you guys know the real and raw truth about it that Hollywood has prevented from achieving. So subscribe. If you want, please give this video a thumbs up, because it makes me so happy and it helps my channel grow, and I really, really appreciate it. As always, guys, we're learning together, we're laughing together, and we're ticking together. Have a wonderful evening and stay safe, and I can't wait to see you again soon. Bye!